Hello guys, today we are going to talk about the circulatory system, of which we are going to talk about the part 1 of it, which is the body fluids. Okay. So first of all the question comes, why do we need body fluids? Need for body fluids. Need number 1 is that the nutrients which is absorbed from your GIT or the gastrointestinal tube, those nutrients are transported from that which are absorbed, they are transported from the GIT to the liver for and then to the various cells of the body. So transport of nutrients. Second, respiratory gases, transport of respiratory gases. You breathe in oxygen and that oxygen is dissolved in the blood, and that oxygen is taken to each and every cell of the body, and the carbon dioxide given out by each and every cell of the body is again diffused out, and this is done with the help of body fluids, that is blood. Now the third one is the excretory products. The products, say urea, uric acid, ammonia, creatinine, those all excretory products are transported by the body fluids, and then they are excreted out from the body. Now the next one is hormonal transport. The hormones, various hormones which are produced in our body and which are very essential for the normal proper functioning of the body, those hormones are transported to the respective locations via the body fluids. The last one, very important, is immunity. There are certain components of body fluids which impart immunity to our body. We'll talk about it later. Now let's classify the body fluids. Okay, let's classify the body fluids. How many types of body fluids we have? Body fluids, we have basically we have 3 body fluids. As you can guess, it's blood, then we have lymph, and then we have tissue fluid. What is blood? Blood is the red colored fluid running through our blood vessels in the entire body. Lymph is a pale yellowish or colorless fluid which also runs through specific vessels called lymph ducts. And tissue fluid is the fluid between the cells of our body. Okay. This tissue fluid helps in proper transportation, diffusion of gases and nutrients across the cell and the blood vessels. Now, this blood, as I said, is inside the blood vessels. Lymphs are transported through lymph ducts or lymphatic vessels, and these are present between the cells. Okay. Now, circulatory system is basically of 2 types. Okay, the circulatory system can be classified into basically 2 types. One being the open circulatory system, the other being the closed circulatory system. Closed circulatory system means the body fluids, that is the blood. Okay, basically it's a blood, mainly blood, flows through blood vessels, tubular structures, tubular blood vessels. Okay, from the heart and then to the various organs and then back to the heart. All these transportation occurs through blood vessels. Whereas in open type of circulation, the heart pumps the blood and the blood moves into a open sinus, open space. They do not move through blood vessels. They directly go into the open spaces from where the blood, the nutrients and the respiratory gases are diffused to the various organs. They do not have blood vessels. Okay. Now where are they found? Closed type of circulatory system is normally found in humans and any other higher animals. Open type of circulatory system is found in insects, say cockroach. They have open type of circulatory system. Okay. Now there are many such fluids in our body which do not circulate. Okay, two of them are say vitreous humor. In our eye, vitreous humor. Okay, then we have synovial fluid between two synovial in a synovial joint. Okay, these are the two fluids which do not circulate, but they are fluid present in a human body. Okay, now let's talk about blood. Blood. Now, blood is composed of two parts. Okay, it has plasma. It is composed of plasma, mainly the water. I will describe about plasma later on. Plasma, and then we have formed elements. Plasma constitutes for about 55% of the blood, and the rest 45% is occupied by formed elements. Now, what is plasma? Okay, let's talk about formed elements. Now, formed elements are nothing but the cellular and various cellular components, proteins and all, they are present in the blood. They are referred to as formed elements. And now we have plasma is the mainly watery part. Let's classify them again. Okay, plasma is classified into three parts, of which majority is of course water. Okay, then we have proteins, certain proteins. Then we have various other solutes. Now, water constitutes for about 91.5% of the plasma. It's of plasma. Okay, proteins constitute for about 7%. Okay, and other solutes constitute for about 1.5%. Now, here it's important to know which are the proteins which are present in the plasma. Okay, number one, we have albumin, which is responsible for the osmolarity of the blood. Okay, the volume of the blood and indirectly the blood pressure. Next, we have globulin, which is responsible for the immunity which is imparted through the blood. And for last, we have what is called as fibrinogen. Very important, fibrinogen. It has a major role in blood clotting. In other solutes, we have various electrolytes, say sodium, potassium, okay, calcium, the various other solutes. Okay, so we have amino acids, we have hormones. Okay, now let's classify formed elements. Formed elements, as I said, they are the cellular part of the blood. They are divided into three: RBCs or erythrocytes, WBCs or leukocytes, and platelets or thrombocytes. Okay, now we'll talk about each one of them. So these are erythrocytes, leukocytes, thrombocytes. We are going to talk about them individually. They are important to know. Now, let's talk about the basic functions of blood. What are the basic functions of blood? First, we'll see its function in transport. Transport of what? Transport of nutrients, oxygen to the cells, carbon dioxide from the cells, hormones. Okay, next, it also helps in heat regulation, transferring heat from different parts of the body to the different parts, heat regulation. Okay, then we have excretory products. Nevertheless, excretory products. Okay, now the other function is protection. Protection against various pathogens. Okay, so it imparts immunity. And the blood elements present in blood itself, it helps in clotting of blood, that is preventing blood loss. These are the basic functions of blood. Okay. Okay, now it's important to know that we have talked about plasma. Now plasma had something which I told as fibrinogen, which is responsible for blood clotting. Now plasma without fibrinogen, that is plasma minus fibrinogen, is serum. When you have a wound and that wound is somehow cured, after that you have a mark, and from that cured wound, after some time, some type of yellowish fluid oozes out. Okay, that is what is serum. That is what is serum. It lacks fibrinogen. It is made up of plasma without any fibrinogen in it. Okay, so it has lost the ability of clotting, so it oozes out. Okay, now let's talk about the formed elements individually. So first we'll talk about erythrocytes or RBCs. How do they look? If you see from a lateral view, it is disc shaped. Okay, but if you see from a lateral view, it is biconcave. It looks like this. It's from lateral view, and from, if you're seeing it from an anterior view, it is a disc shaped, but the boundary is thickened. Okay, its boundary is thickened and the middle part is depressed. So from lateral view, it appears to be biconcave in nature. Okay, in humans, erythrocytes are biconcave in nature. However, there is an exception. It's good to know that erythrocytes in camels are biconvex. Okay, later you'll know that in erythrocytes in humans they do not have nucleus, but in camels they have. So that's a different issue. It's good to know that for extra knowledge. Okay, now let's talk about the characteristics of erythrocytes. First, as I said, it's biconcave in shape. Okay, next we have its size. It's the smallest of all the formed elements. It's about 7 micron in diameter. Okay, it's about 7 microns in diameter. Now, what is the use of this biconcavity? It provides a larger surface area. It's you will know what is its use when it comes to the functionality of RBCs. Okay, it provides larger surface area, and then another one is, due to its shape, it can easily pass through narrow capillaries. Okay, now the next one is RBC count. Okay, in males, RBC count is about 5 to 5.5 million per cubic millimeter of blood. Now in females, it is little less. It's 4.5 to 5 million per cubic millimeter of blood. Now you must have heard that there is something in RBCs which is known as hemoglobin. Okay, hemoglobin, you must have heard. What is it? It's a pigment. It's a respiratory pigment present in RBCs, which is the main main cause for which it helps in respiratory gas diffusion transport. Okay, it is the main protagonist. Now hemoglobin is composed of two parts. What is, if we break hemoglobin, what will we get? First is its heme part, heme, Heme, heme part, and next we have the globin part. Okay, heme part is you do not need to know much about it. It's made up of 4 tetrapyrrole rings. Okay, porphyrin, which contains iron. Okay, this heme part, to this heme part iron is attached, and in each hemoglobin molecule we have 4 heme parts. So we have 4 iron molecules attached to it. And in globin is the proteinous part, and in globin also we have 4 globins in each hemoglobin molecule. I am talking about in one hemoglobin molecule we have 4 heme moieties, and in one hemoglobin and we have 4 globin part. Out of that 4 globin part, in the normal hemoglobin we have 2 alpha, I mean they write it this way, okay, alpha 2 and beta 2. That means of the globin part, globin chain, 2 are alpha chain made up of alpha chain and 2 are made up of beta chains. Total there are 4 globins. Okay, this I am talking about HB. We have types of hemoglobin as well. So this is HbA, the most common type of hemoglobin. Okay, there are other types as well. We have HB, okay, A2. There only this globin is, we have alpha 2 and delta 2. Okay, we have HbF, that is the fetal hemoglobin. There we have the globin chain as alpha 2 and gamma 2, right? Next we have HbA1c. This is a glycated hemoglobin. Okay, now here what happens, the glucose is non-enzymatically attached to the hemoglobin. Now how does it help? It's of great clinical importance, this HbA1c or the glycated hemoglobin. When someone has diabetes mellitus, okay, the blood sugar level rises in his blood, his or her blood. That excess blood sugar starts to get attached to this hemoglobin chain, okay, non-enzymatically, but it happens in due course of longer periods of time. Okay, so it takes some time. So when we if there is increased number of this glycated hemoglobin in a particular individual, now we can conclude that he has diabetes mellitus for about a long period of time. He is suffering from diabetes mellitus. Okay, this HB, normal HbA plus glucose, when it is attached to this HbA, then it forms HbA1c. Okay, now let's talk about, okay, now different compounds formed by the hemoglobin. Let's write here. Now hemoglobin, when it attaches with oxygen molecule, then it forms oxyhemoglobin. Hemoglobin, when it attaches with carbon dioxide molecule, it forms carbamino hemoglobin. Now when hemoglobin attaches with carbon monoxide, it forms carboxy hemoglobin. Very important to know, this carboxy hemoglobin is the most stable. In fact, if you have a hemoglobin molecule here and you have oxygen as well as carbon monoxide, mind you, carbon monoxide will bind with hemoglobin with 230 times more efficiency than oxygen will do. So carbon monoxide can bind to hemoglobin to form carboxy hemoglobin 230 times better than oxygen can do. So if there is carbon monoxide poisoning, it's very dangerous and it's very hard to cure. Okay, you have to provide with immediate oxygen therapy, otherwise the patient may collapse, because it has 230 times more affinity than oxygen. 230, see the figure. So carbon monoxide poisoning is highly dangerous. Okay, now so due to this hemoglobin, the RBC, it can perform its main function, which is diffusion of respiratory gases. Okay. Now, where is RBC produced? Produced. In adults, it is produced in mainly the axial skeleton. Say in the bones, in the bone marrows of the axial skeleton. Okay, say you can say skull. Okay, ribs, vertebrae. Okay, long bones, femur also, yeah, femur. Okay, ilium. do away with femur. Mainly the axial skeleton. Mainly the axial skeleton. Because when they are neonates, I mean the newborns, in newborns the RBCs are produced in almost all the bones, all the bone marrows of all the bones. Okay, but as he or she matures, as he or she becomes an adult, the production is becomes confined to the axial skeleton, the skull, the ribs, okay, the vertebrae, the ilium, right? Okay, and in embryo stage, it is produced in spleen and liver. Okay, and in neonates, as neonates means just newborn babies. Okay, it is produced in all the bone marrows. Okay, now it's important to know that spleen is also called the graveyard of RBCs. You know, RBCs have a lifespan. After that, they become non-functional, so they need to be destroyed. Okay, they live for about 120 days, after which they are destroyed. Each RBC cell, each RBC. Okay, now after 120 days, they go to spleen. They become non-functional, old. They go to spleen, and there they are broken down. And that when they are broken down, we get hemoglobin. The hemoglobin is broken down. Okay, so we get heme, from which iron is extracted, and that iron is reused in making another RBC. And from there we also get globin, the proteinous part. That globin is again broken down into different amino acids, and that amino acid means added to the amino acid pool of our body. Okay. Now, what is so special about RBCs? As I told somewhat before, it has no nucleus. Next, it has no mitochondria. Next, it has no cytoskeletal structures. Okay, say which is endoplasmic reticulum. What are its uses? No nucleus, so it has a biconcave shape, so it has larger surface area, and it can accommodate more number of oxygen atoms. Okay, and due to as it has no nucleus, its size is reduced, so a smaller volume of blood can contain a larger number of RBCs. It is contributing to its less size. Okay, very smaller size. No mitochondria. Well, how does it help? In having no mitochondria, the oxygen which it has, okay, for its transportation is not used up for its own use. Okay, for having no cytoskeleton, okay, as the endoplasmic reticulum, how does it help? It can easily pass through finer capillaries, and as it becomes very flexible, flexibility is increased. Okay, in high altitude, when you go to high altitude, okay, there is oxygen deficiency. So what our body does to compensate that, body starts producing a higher number of RBCs. So there is an increased number of RBCs. People who are usually living in high altitude areas, okay, they have much higher RBC count than us. Not much, but they have higher RBC count. Why? Because their oxygen concentration is less, so they need more RBCs to get access to more oxygen, so that the body gets adequate amount of oxygen. Now, clinical conditions. What do we have? Abnormal increase in RBC count. Abnormal, mind you, abnormal increase in RBC count is referred to as polycythemia. An abnormal decrease in RBC count is known as erythropenia. Polycythemia and erythropenia. Right, so that's all about the RBCs. Now let's move on to the WBCs or leukocytes. Leukocytes. Okay. Now, basically, you must have known it has no hemoglobin. Okay, it has nucleus, not like the RBCs. It has mitochondria and all, everything. Now, what is its count? WBC count. Main WBC count is about 4,000 to 8,000. It's very less, 4,000 to 8,000 per cubic millimeter of blood. Okay, per cubic millimeter of blood. What is the shape? The shape, they have an amoeboid shape. Due to this amoeboid shape, they can undergo a process, they can perform a process known as diapedesis. Because they have amoeboid shape, diapedesis, what is diapedesis? Diapedesis is oozing out of WBCs through blood capillaries, just gaps between the cells of the walls of capillaries. So through that gap, they can easily ooze out when needed. Because they have amoeboid shape, they can change their shape. So they can perform diapedesis. Okay. They can also perform something known as phagocytosis, which is not related to the amoeboid shape, but they can perform phagocytosis. What is this? This is engulfing of the foreign particles or bacteria, whatever. Okay, to render them non-functional. Now, moving on to the next, we classify leukocytes. For that, we need space. Leukocytes. Basically, it is classified into two types: granular and agranular or non-granular. Granular means the cells have granules. Agranular means the cells do not have granules. Now, granular is again divided into three. What are they? First, we have neutrophils. Then we have eosinophils. Then we have basophils. Okay, why are they called neutro, eosino and baso? Neutro means, you can defer, neutral means the granules are dyed, are stained with neutral dyes, neutral colors. Eosinophil means the granules are stained with acidic stains, acidic dyes, because eosine means acid. Eosine is another word for acid. Basophils means their granules are stained with basic dyes. Okay, now eosinophils specific, characteristic features are they have 3 to 4 lobed nucleus. Eosinophils have two lobed nucleus. Okay, and basophils have 2 to 3 lobed, but their lobes are not indistinct. Okay, indistinctly lobed. Here I am talking about nucleus. Okay, indistinctly lobed. I'll draw their diagram to show the difference. Now, composition, how much they are present. About all leukocytes, 64% are neutrophils. Okay, 62, I'm sorry, 62%. Of all leukocytes, 62% are neutrophils. Okay, 2.3% are eosinophils, and basophils are say 0.1% or 0.4. Okay, 0.4%. However, it is very rare. Basophils are very rare to find. Now, what are the functions? Neutrophil is associated with phagocytosis. Eosinophil is associated with allergic reaction. They secrete something when there is allergy. Okay, they are related to allergy, and they are resisting those foreign particles. And basophils are related as they secrete. Okay, their function is they secrete histamine, heparin, serotonin. However, they are very rarely found in the blood. Okay, now let's draw just a representational diagram. Say this is the neutrophil. Okay, they are 3 to 4 lobed. How? So they are distinctly lobed. Next, we have eosinophil, they have two lobes. This way. They are distinctly lobed. Here in basophils, say we have two lobes, but they are indistinctly lobed. How? They are indistinctly lobed, as you can see. Of course, they have granules. She is dyed with neutral stains. They have acidic stains, and they have basic stains. Okay, now moving on to the agranular part, we have something known as monocytes, lymphocytes. Okay, important to know, monocytes are the largest of all WBCs, whereas lymphocytes are smallest of all WBCs. Okay, now monocytes characteristics features are that they have a kidney shaped nucleus, and lymphocytes, they have a large spherical nucleus, a very large spherical nucleus. Basic function of monocyte is phagocytosis. Okay, phagocytosis, and it is concerned with immunity, lymphocytes immunity. How? Now we can also classify lymphocytes as two types. Lymphocytes, this one, as two types: B lymphocyte and T lymphocyte. They are so called B and T because T lymphocyte matures in thymus, an organ, okay, in human body, placed right just below the neck. Okay, T lymphocytes mature in thymus, so they are known as T lymphocyte. B lymphocyte mature in bone marrow. However, that is not the reason why they are called B lymphocyte. They are called B lymphocyte because they were first discovered in an organ named bursa of Fabricius in birds. They were first discovered here, so they are named after that bursa of Fabricius as B lymphocyte, and they are named T lymphocyte as they mature in thymus. However, they mature in bone marrow. Okay. So they impart cell mediated immunity and they impart humoral immunity. Okay. Okay, what is their lifetime? WBCs live for only few hours. After that, they are rendered as non-functional. The clinical part: abnormal increase in number of WBCs is referred to as leukemia or blood cancer. It is commonly referred to as blood cancer. Okay, and this rise is at the cost of RBCs, means RBCs number is constant, however WBC is increasing much more. Okay, so we refer this to as leukemia or blood cancer. Abnormal decrease in WBCs are referred to as leukopenia. Now let's move on to platelets or thrombocytes. Platelets is a small part, not much to know. In platelets, you must know that they are cell fragments. They are not actually cells, they are cell fragments. They are derived from something known as megakaryocytes. These megakaryocytes break down to form platelets or thrombocytes. Okay, their lifetime is about 3 to 5 days. Okay, their count is 1.5 lakhs to 3.5 lakhs per millimeter cube of blood. Okay, what is the function? The main function is clotting of blood. Clotting of blood. Okay, so that's all for this part of the chapter. So the video of the next part will be available soon. Till then, stay tuned and have a nice time. Thank you.